One of the most famous locomotives in railroading, this engine has been in service for decades to debatably one of the greatest Class 1 railroads of their time. Truly capturing the uniqueness of the Union Pacific now and for years to come, there is certainly no engine like the living legend that is Union Pacific 844. Hey, wait a minute, hold on 1 second. That's not 844, that's 8444. Show me the real 844. No, that's a blurry picture I took of 8444, that's an SD70 ACE. Come on now, try again. There you go, that's 844. This is a story about a diesel that got its claim to fame by being from famous model locomotives, as well as having the same number as a steam locomotive operating for the same historic railroad. Throughout the late 1950s into the 60s, dieselization was nearly complete among American railroads, and now diesel locomotive manufacturers were competing more than ever to outdo the other and to sell their locomotives to the most customers. Some of the major competitors at the time consisted of the American Locomotive Works, or ALCO, General Electric, GE, and Electromotive Division, EMD. Each railroad needed different diesel locomotives for different purposes such as mainline express, local freight, and switchers. One of the largest and best performing Class 1 railroads of the time was the Union Pacific, who started dieselizing in the late 1930s along with our American Class 1s. However, their quest for new motive power was far from over, as one of their most recent locomotives was the GE U-25B, which was starting to become common among numerous Class 1s with its 2,500 horsepower. In order to compete against their main rival and their best-selling product, EMD produced the icon in railroading known as the GP30, GP standing for General Purpose, and 30 standing for Model 30. Even though it did not have as much horsepower as the U-25, the reliability of the GP30, as well as railroad mechanical departments being more familiar with EMD products, ultimately won many more orders for the first model of the second generation of diesel locomotives, as the introduction of this locomotive only intensified the competition between the two locomotive manufacturers, which still goes on to this day. The Union Pacific was one of the many Class 1s which ordered these reliable diesels, and ordered the most GP30s with a total of 111 locomotives and 40 capitalist B units on their roster. Despite the ongoing rivalry between the big three at the time, there was still a steam locomotive on Union Pacific's roster, which was never retired. That is, Class FEF-3 number 844. However, with the introduction of the railroad's GP30 with the same number in August 1962, the 844 steam locomotive was renumbered to 8444 as it was used for excursion services for decades, and still continues to do so to this day. The new 844, along with the rest of the GP30s, continued to work for the Union Pacific as they entered service almost immediately after their introduction on the railroad's important mainline trains. They ranged system-wide in regions ranging from Omaha and Kansas City to Seattle, Portland, and Los Angeles. However, the delivery of newer, more powerful diesel locomotives, including SD40s, SD45s, and U30Cs throughout the late 1960s, saw the GP30s move to secondary service and even local service, especially in the Pacific Northwest and Southern California. Despite them being downgraded from mainline freight to local service within a time frame of 10 years, the GP30s still continued to serve the system very well as they replaced older GP7s and GP9s. As time passed, however, and with the introduction of newer just as famous road switchers from EMD in the late 70s, that being the GP38-2, more GP30s were being sidelined as some of the railroad's first GP30 retirements started in the early 1980s, starting with the capitalist B units and later with the 700 and 800 series throughout the decade. Yet some of them continued to stay in service as 4-axle motive power was needed after UP merged with the Missouri Pacific and Western Pacific. As more and more GP30s are being sold to various Class 1s, short lines, leasing, and scrap companies, UP844, one of the last remaining GP30s in service at the time, was retired in January 1989 after recently working in the North Little Rock, Arkansas region. At the same time, the FEF-3 8444 was renumbered back to its original number of 844, as its GP30 counterpart was finally retired, outlived by a nearly extinct type of railroad locomotive. Fortunately, this piece of Union Pacific history was donated to the Nevada Southern Railroad Museum at Boulder City, Nevada in March 1989, where it resides to this day. Even though 844, the steam locomotive, is still pulling excursions to this day, as it was never retired, 844, the GP30, is the museum's main attraction as it continues to pull tourist trains for the Nevada Southern Railroad Museum. Thank you all for watching this episode of Remarkable Engines. This engine not only single-handedly caused the renumbering of one of the most famous steam locomotives in the United States, but is also one of the longest-lasting examples of a common legend in American railroading, proudly representing the second generation of diesels. The EMD GP30 itself is one of the most easily recognized diesel locomotives produced by EMD, with its unique cab and with it being rostered on numerous American railroads across the nation, with some GP30s still being in service to this day, outlasting its GE competitors, nearly 60 years after being built. With the preservation of this locomotive also comes the preservation of history of not only one of the greatest locomotives built by EMD, but also part of the rich history of the Union Pacific Railroad and its diverse roster. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for when I cover Santa Fe 1010. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Have a good day.